A lot of vehicles nowadays, even when you do something like replace the windshield, you need to reset and recalibrate certain sensors on the vehicle. This BMW behind me has a rain sensor that works with the automatic windshield wipers, and when you do replace the windshield, you do need to recalibrate it. It's pretty easy to do. Let me walk you through it. Okay, so this resets under the rain light sensor module. It's got to communicate and figure out which one it's equipped with. It's going to go through that little function. Once we're in there, it's under functional tests, and then special functions, and then rain sensor initialization. It's going to say the service function only initializes the rain sensor and newly adapts it to the windscreen, which would be the windshield. The initialization does not impact the light sensor. Do I want to do it or do I not want to do it? So we're going to carry out the initializations. We'll hit that. Need to make sure the windscreen is dry, clean, and undamaged in the area of the rain sensor, which it is. Ambient temperature between 15 and 35 degrees centigrade. Gel pad on the rain sensor must be bonded to the windscreen without bubbles. Small bubbles can be removed by loosening and adjusting some things. So are all conditions okay? Yes, so we'll hit yes. It's going to run the initialization. Okay, so it's going to delete the old values, and then to run it again, we're going to switch it off and then switch it on again, and then wait 10 seconds. So let me go cycle the key here. Okay, so that's about 10 seconds. So after 10 seconds have elapsed, the rain sensor will have adjusted itself to the windscreen again. So service function is now finished. So there it is, a couple steps, about 10 seconds to wait, and you have reinitialized your rain sensor anytime you change the windshield.
Hello, everyone. Forgot to load my presentation, though, so give me a second. There we go. Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining our diagnostic training session today. Now, if you have any questions throughout the session, if you're joining on Zoom, just look at the top of the bottom of your screen, wherever your Zoom controls are. You should see a little button that says Q&A. Type in your question, and I'll get to those at the end. If you're watching along on YouTube, just feel free to use the live chat function, and I'll get to those at the end as well. So my name is Jason Gabrinas. I'm one of Snap-on's National Diagnostic Technical Trainers. Been in the training department the last 12 years or so, traveling around North America, helping techs and shop owners get the most out of their diagnostic equipment. Before I did that, it was a couple of years as a diagnostic sales rep with Snap-on, so I had about 30 different franchisees I worked with, as well as the shops that they serviced, in order to help everyone get the most out of their diagnostic needs. Then before I did that, it was 8 years at Subaru, so worked in a dealership and just over time became that default diag guy in the shop. So I was ending up with the drivability problems, the intermittent problems, the weird wiring problems that would show up on those cars. And that's really where I cut my diagnostic teeth, was trying to figure out all those weird head scratcher type cars that would come into my bag. And before that, a bunch of other miscellaneous wrenching jobs. Been about 30 years under hood experience for me. So our topic today, we are continuing on with our OEM-specific ADAS training, and we are back to BMW again. So this is we did this a little bit earlier this year, and we're just repeating it again because that's how we do things around here. About every 6 weeks, we start them over, give you an extra chance to watch it again. So OEM-specific ADAS training specific to BMW. So BMW, much like any other manufacturer out there in the world nowadays, has driver assist systems on the vehicles, and they can range from pretty simplistic to very sophisticated and anywhere in between. So much like any other manufacturer, they do use radar. They use it for adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, front and rear cross traffic alert. Cameras for front view, rear view, 360 view. They also have a driver directed camera on certain vehicles as well to make sure you're paying attention type of thing. Ultrasonic sensors for park assists, and night vision camera in this case. And then there's that interior camera down there. So I actually separated it out. But night vision camera, not a lot of manufacturers use those because it's kind of on the higher end of vehicles that use those. And then the interior camera, that's not as common either. But like I said, that's to make sure that you're paying attention to the road as you're driving. So we got a few different vehicles we're going to kind of do just a case study overview type thing with. And these are going to be basically the top selling models out of BMW over the last 10 years. So first one here is a 2017 X5. On this vehicle, it uses 3 radars for adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, and rear cross traffic alerts. That means it has 1 in the front in the grille and then 2 in the back on the corners. That's 5 cameras, 1 for the front view, the one up in the windshield there, and then 360 view. It's got 4 cameras around the outside. Ultrasonic sensors, there's 8 of them. It's 4 in the front, 4 in the back. They use that for park assist. And then a night vision camera, which is in the front as well. And that allows you to see a little bit further at night when it's dark out and your headlights don't shine on it. But night vision gives you that extra vision down the road, so to say. So front camera, as usual, as you would expect, would be up in the windshield there by the rearview mirror. And for BMW, they call it CAFIS. So it's the camera-based driver support system. So all of your camera stuff, other than the all-around view camera, but the main camera up there is going to be in that CAFIS, the camera-based driver support system. And in there, the only option we have for a reset, relearn, or whatever is a camera calibration. So it goes in, and basically it's a pretty simple procedure. It's like a reset, relearn, calibrates the camera. Doesn't actually need any targets or anything in this case. Do you want to recalibrate the camera because of the windshield? Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Never mind. Strike that last from the record there. It says the camera's already calibrated. That's what it's warning you about. The camera's already calibrated. Do you want to recalibrate the camera because the windscreen geometry has changed or other problems? Yes or no? We're going to go to yes. The calibration has started. The testing procedure must be ended properly. In other words, it deletes what was already in there. So termination of the procedure can cause a defect in the camera or vehicle. Vehicle must be driven to complete the procedure. So you want to make sure you're able to drive it after. You want to start the calibration. We'll go with yes. And then system cannot teach itself while normal driving. The following driving profile must be implemented in order to complete learning procedure. Must drive for 5 minutes at 70 kilometers an hour down the road. So it's basically telling you it's going to do calibration statically without anything it needs to aim on. Once again, no targets. But then it also needs to drive down the road at 70 kilometers an hour for 5 minutes. So basically, you got to get on the highway. Carry out the service function with telecustomers. Some driver assistance systems are temporarily unavailable after vehicle pickup. I would just drive the vehicle as a good customer service, but I guess if you're in a rush, the customer can drive it and they can calibrate it and then have their stuff not work for 5 minutes. But in my mind, I would go and drive the vehicle for a couple minutes, 5-10 minutes. You got to do a road test anyways after the fact, so might as well just do that. And then if the heating is defective, the windscreen must be replaced as well. Front radar down here in the front, down below in the grill there. That is found under the active cruise control system there. So there's a ACC sensor startup, and there's also an actuation of the radome heater. So it looks like the radar itself has a heater built in to get rid of frost, which is nice if you live in a cold climate anyway. So you go to startup. Compliance with the following notes and checks is required prior to starting the startup procedure. They absolutely necessary for the proper function of the active cruise control. So ensure the active cruise control sensor is not hidden. Do you want to start the setup function? Sure. Vehicles fitted with air suspension. The control unit for self-leveling suspension must be trouble-free and adjusted, so make sure there's no codes. Therefore, start the engine and wait until the air suspension is set. For the control function of the air suspension to function properly, doors of the vehicle must be closed. Switch off the engine and continue to start up. And then there's some targets involved with this one. So there's a big plate target there and a couple other things that are needed for that. You need to check the vertical orientation with a bubble level. So there's a bubble level right there. It wants to check the vertical, and then the horizontal is done using the scan tool. And then gives you some requirements as to what your measuring area needs to be. So it looks like about 500 centimeters there. So 5 meters, I guess, 15 feet. And then 80 centimeters, and 360 centimeters that way. Rear radar. It's going to be in the rear bumper area mounted to the vehicle itself, behind the bumper, and that'll be under lane change warning. And then there's initialization for that. Sensor system of the SWW control unit and the SWW slave must be adjusted in the following case. Replace the rear control unit or slave. Bodywork repair in the area of the control unit or slave. So Other than that, other than actually replacing it, or if there is some sort of a body work done, you shouldn't need to do this. The control unit and slave must be adjusted independently. Correction angle of the sensor is reset during the adjustment. It's located on the right-hand side of the vehicle. Slave unit's located on the left-hand side of the vehicle. Do you want to continue? Yep. And then we can adjust the right side and we can adjust the left side. You would walk through the procedure doing this. Ignition must be turned on. You want to start. Adjustment of lane change warning control unit. Adjustment of lane change warning control unit is successfully executed. If necessary, carry out adjustment of lane change warning slave unit. Carry out clear all codes after this procedure, as codes may be stored in various control units during the initialization process. And then after replacing, run the service function after replacing the sensor, after a body repair in the area when the sensor for lane change and warning was not replaced. And then it tells you how to kind of get there. So if in the event of side damage to the vehicle, it's not necessary to replace the tail panel, observe the following points. Fit the middle bumper panel guide on undamaged side. Use the middle bumper panel guide as a gauge in order to check the correct position of the remaining connecting points. Middle bumper panel guide must be able to be fitted without tension. And then you would do your reprogramming. 360 camera. Cameras are located in the mirrors and in the nose and in the tail. That would be the all-around vision camera in that case. And then teaching the all-around vision cameras is there. You can test the image of all cameras, reset the control unit, and then force camera calibration on the next drive cycle. Close doors and activate the camera button. Test images are going to be displayed after 20 seconds after component actuation. Then you hit activate, you wait 20 seconds, and it would show up on the screen. Not on the scan tool, on the vehicle. Diagnosis system provides the following service function for the all-around camera. Calibrating and teaching system. Depending on the vehicle equipment, all installed cameras are automatically learned in with the service function. The cameras can then be calibrated individually. Bumper camera cannot be calibrated. And there's a notice, a new update procedure. Automatic calibration is now available as a new update procedure to the reversing camera and the exterior mirror camera. While the replacement, each camera must be reinitialized. The service function provides an automatic calibration. Manual calibration using a special tool is no longer required, so it's just a quick reset relearn. On vehicles with all-around vision camera manufactured prior to 3 of 2011, automatic calibration can be activated in a programming session. Park assist, that's going to be under park distance control in that case, and there really isn't anything to speak of. It just kind of plugs in there, plugs into little holes on the bumper. There's really no calibration needed for that. Plug and play. And then the night vision camera is actually separate. It's under safety and restraints. It's not under ADAS, it's under safety and restraints. And then we have night vision electronics right there. And we have calibration on the night vision camera. There are targets involved, so set up the targets correctly with reference to the workshop manual or use an ADAS calibration system, such as our True Point system. We continue. And in this case, it's using a headlight aiming unit. And you want to kind of aim it at the camera. And then you want to adjust it until the line is level right there. So just kind of walks you through how to do it in service info. And it's basically, it's going to be detecting the headlight aiming unit, and then you want to level it off on that. Okay, that's the X5. All of these are going to be fairly similar because they use fairly similar systems as far as the resets and relearns are concerned. So we have a 2015 3 Series here, 3 radars, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic, 5 cameras, front view and 360 view, and 8 ultrasonic sensors for park assist. No night vision to speak of on this one. Front camera is going to be the same picture. That's under CAFIS. And then you would go through the same exact procedure you would go through on the X5. Front radar. It's going to be behind the bumper there. We can see the radiator there and kind of the bumper, the styrofoam is behind the bumper. And then there's our level to level it off. And then the side to side gets done with the scan tool. Got the ACC sensor startup, and that's going to be the same exact procedure as the X5. Rear radar, it's going to be pretty much the same deal. Initialization back there, and they're on the rear corners again. Same situation as you would deal with the X5. 360 camera. We have test image of all cameras, force camera calibration on next drive cycle. Once again, same system as the X5, so it's going to be the same procedure we just walked through on that. Park assist system. Nothing really special going on with that. We can activate the unit so we can make sure that the beeping works. And then it actually is a sensor test in this variant. So park maneuvering assistant sensor test, you can actually go and test the sensors, I guess. And I'm sure it would spit out a code if it found a fault. And then we have a 2016 7 Series. So these are traditionally, these are the ones where BMW is going to put all their fancy stuff on. They're going to put the new stuff that hasn't trickled down to the lower end models or anything. These are going to be the highest end, have all the bells and whistles on them, right? So it's, even in 2016, which is now a 9-year-old vehicle, it has 5 radars. It has adaptive cruise control in the front, 2 in the rear for blind spot monitor and lane change assist, and rear cross traffic alert. There's also 2 in the front for that. 5 cameras, front view and 360, 8 ultrasonic sensors, a night vision camera, and an interior camera. So your front radar is going to be very similar. It's going to be kind of right there. You can kind of almost see it right in the grill. Active cruise control for that. And we can see a lot of different things going on there. ACC sensor startup. It's going to be actually the same procedure though, even though it's a bit more complex vehicle. It's going to be the same procedure. Rear radar, same type of deal. Short range radar reset horizontal correction is what they call that. And that'll be a very similar procedure to what your lane change was. Front side radar. So that's on the corners in the front. It's going to be the same type of deal. Short range radar reset horizontal correction. So you have a horizontal correction in the back, horizontal correction in the front. The vertical correction is done with a bubble level. Front camera is a little more complex. It's still up in the ceiling there. Calibration is only required when the windscreen has been replaced, so it's not even going to let you go through it unless the windshield has been replaced. Or it's just going to let you know. 360 cameras, same type of deal. Test the image of the cameras. Front camera force camera calibration on the next drive cycle. Same procedure we've seen already. And then the interior camera is actually in the dash. So this is, well, the cluster, right? So this is the cluster here, and that's the camera module. This silver thing right here is the camera module. So it's kind of up on top, pointing at your face, making sure that you are watching the road. And no real reset or relearn for that either. And then as far as park assist is concerned, once again, all the way around the vehicle, just kind of clips in. And then the night vision camera, it's going to be in the front, kind of off to the side. And then that's also under night vision electronics again. Calibration of the night vision camera. It's going to be the same situation as we talked about with the X5. So as we can see so far, just kind of at a high level, that they're going to be very similar, and there's very few targets. A lot of it's driving or just a reset or a relearn, which is helpful because, well, then I don't need to buy or equip myself with targets. So let's go live on the tool and see a couple things that we can see. First one we want to do is the X5. We're just going to do it in the same order we did in the PowerPoint. So we'll just go in here, load the vehicle. And we can see we come down here to ADAS and driver's aids. We have 2, 4, 6, 8 things. And in this case, we can also go, if we have a tool with the service resets and relearns quick link menu, that'll actually bring you to a categorized links to resets and relearns. So if I come down to my driver aids and ADAS, and then we have a replace or calibrate night vision camera. We also have our round view camera, front windshield, etc. But for night vision camera, I want to go into my repair information because I want to take a look. There's a link to repair information if you're on the service resets and relearns menu. So it's going to bring me into my repair information here. All right, and then outside view camera replace. And then if I come down to after repair, it's going to show me what I need to do after. And they have the adjusting night vision camera. So axial and vertical alignment can be performed only with the BMW Diagnostics system or a scan tool. It's under body night vision electronics, calibrate the night vision electronics camera, which we already have in there. Front of vehicle must be parallel to the distance of headlight aiming device, and there's your headlight aiming device. And then the upper edge must be aligned using a diagnosis system, so it's parallel to the yellow guideline in the display. All right, so setting of this kind of walks you through the same deal. You need to have a headlight aiming device. That is a certain distance away. And then you would do it, you're going to do the one of the adjustments using a screw. The other one is going to be the other adjustments using a scan tool. I also wanted to see there's a TSB in here. So this is for cameras in general. Sporadically, one or more of the following check control messages are displayed in the CID, the driver information control module. After the vehicle is parked in direct sun for extended periods, front collision warning, pedestrian detection, lane departure warning. It's due to the cabin temperature exceeding the operational limits of the CAFIS camera. When this occurs, this fault code is set, causing the CC messages to display. So they updated the wording, basically. So let's see. Down here, though, here's another thing that I wanted to mention. So when you do programming, coding, flashing, what have you with BMWs, especially a 7 Series, for example, when ISTA-P automatically programs and codes all the vehicle's control modules that currently do not have the latest software, and if one or more control module failures occur during this programming procedure, consequential control module repair. But the important thing is it programs and codes all the vehicle modules at the same time. So if I have to do a flash or a program, it may take a while, especially on like a 7 Series where it's got a ton of modules on there. So it goes through each individual module to do it. All right, and then if I come back to scanner, I should have calibration of night vision camera. And then you would go through there and do the process. Set up the targets correctly with reference to the workshop manual. And then, of course, it's going to give me an error because I am in a simulator not hooked up to a car. So that is my X5. Let's go to my 3 Series. And in this case, we want to do adaptive cruise control. Just take a quick look at that. You can see there's 5 different modules instead. Active cruise control. And functional tests. And then we have special functions and then the startup of that. And then we walked through a few of these slides earlier. So trouble-free function of the active cruise control, the ACC sensor must not be covered by the license plate or the license plate carrier. Even a partially covered sensor could lead to limitations of the active cruise control or misalignment. Is the front license plate secured on a license plate carrier? We'll say no, because that'll let us go. Make sure the plate is okay. Continue. Make sure the sensor's not hidden. They're really asking you a bunch of times. If it's got air suspension, it needs to be leveled. We'll hit continue. Rear axle slip angle control must be working trouble-free. Yes. Steering angle is read out from the rear axle slip angle controls plus or minus 0.02 degrees. So since it's in a simulator, it's not going to let us go any further because it needs to read less than that. And in this case, it's not going to. So we have that. And then one other thing I wanted to see on this vehicle. Park maneuver assistant. I think this one had the startup, right? No, that one just has reset control unit. Pick the other one. One of these modules, I think, had it. No, I guess not. So that must be on the 7 Series. So we'll go into the 7 Series. All right, so this way we'll go to, you see we got the short range radars too. All right. Park maneuver assistance. See if this one has it. That'll be a little different. Park maneuvering assistance sensor. Sensor test is activated and it's going to result at fault as fault entry if it's got a fault. So we hit active, it would test the sensors. If it fails, it would come back as a fault. So that's helpful. If I need to test my sensors, it'll tell me which one is bad. On this one, though, I'm going to go into shop key. And one nice thing, if you have shop key or Mitchell Pro Demand, we do have this driver assist ADAS function. And that gives us a table of all the ADAS components on a vehicle. What job on that component possibly requires calibration, if I need special tools, and if I need a scan tool. So in the example, we'll do the radar. And this one's got a TSB on it as well. So let's see. Please perform the procedure outlined in the service information on all affected vehicles before customer delivery. In the event the customer has already taken delivery of the vehicle, please perform the procedure the next time the vehicle is in the shop. Certain models produced in August 19th, 2016 and September 5th, 2016. So it's only a couple weeks. Vehicles will show us open. And it's just a faulty batch of sensors, I guess. Replace the sensor, removing and installing, replacing ACC sensor, reprogram and code the vehicle using S4 S2P. And then this also gives you that other warning again, automatically reprograms and codes all the vehicle control modules. So replace it, plus programming and coding. So let's see how long they give you for that. Go to parts and labor. We'll do adjustment. Adjustment's an hour, but I think on the remove and replace, yeah, it's 3.2 hours, which includes the adjustment. So it must be 2.2 hours to replace and an hour for adjustment. By the way, the sensor is $4,800 for just that little radar. It's probably only about the size of my head, if that. Right, so not the cheapest thing to replace, and it's going to take you a couple hours to do. So just be aware that that's necessary, but it can be done as long as you have the proper targets. If you need targets, and like I said, some of these BMWs and some of these systems on these BMWs looks like we don't need targets. It's going to be for the night vision. It's a headlight aiming device, which would be probably any headlight aiming device that you've had for a while, and then the radar needs a plate to bounce off of, but the cameras are all pretty self-contained, and most of the other stuff seems to be pretty self-contained. So seems like for a complex system, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of steps and a lot of extra stuff you need other than a scan tool. That is BMW ADAS. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about next week. And next week, we are going back to basics. So this was a pretty popular class the first time we ran it. We're running it again. And it is, what are the things that I might have forgotten to check on a vehicle, right? Because it invariably happens to just about everybody is we're going to go through and we're going to try and do a diagnosis. And then all of a sudden, it's going to be, oh, I totally forgot the stupid, simple thing that I totally forgot about. Like, any of the 4 cycles of the engine. If I don't have ignition, or if I don't have fuel, or if I don't have compression, it's not going to run right. All right, so we'll just go through kind of the, let's remember the basics next time, anytime we're doing a diagnosis, right? So same time and place as always, every Tuesday, 6 to 9 Eastern. Go to snapon.com/OT if you want to join us on Zoom. Otherwise, 6 p.m. class goes live to YouTube like we're doing right now. 9 p.m. class goes live to our Facebook page. So facebook.com, Snap-on Diagnostics product and training is what they've changed it to. Also note that we have multiple episodes for your viewing pleasure, anywhere from intro to ADAS all the way through up to hybrid and EV vehicles, which would be the last episode we did last week. So we're up to 113 episodes, actually. I got to update this slide. So all free, readily available, half hour long, 40 minutes long, depending on the material. All available on a playlist for live training. So youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics. Scan the QR code there, and that'll bring you right to the page and subscribe you. Also, do we have your email address? If we don't have your email address, you may be missing out on some important tips and tricks and news and other pertinent diagnostic related items. Things like technical focus articles, SureTrack blogs, quick tips, new product releases. We did just release a new product. You may have heard of it. It's called the Triton. And you would have gotten a reminder email about that to talk to your franchisee about that if you're interested. Also, they send out my training schedule periodically just so you kind of know what's coming up. And other valuable diagnostic-related content. We're not going to spam you like 5 emails a day. It's maybe a couple a month at most. It's not overbearing, put it that way. So scan that QR code. It'll bring you to a form where you can then fill out and add your particulars in there and start receiving these wonderful emails. All right, get the questions. If you do have a question on Zoom, just make sure you use the Q&A button, top or bottom of your screen. If you got a question on YouTube, just make sure you use the live chat function. Before I get to questions, though, I do want to remind you that my buddy Keith also does free diagnostic training. On Wednesdays, it is on Zeus and Zeus Plus, and on Thursdays, it is on Triton and Apollo tools. So he takes you from everything from soup to nuts, all the way from setting up the Wi-Fi through. Let's talk about the scanner, buttonology, fast track intelligent diagnostics, Then when he gets done with that, he takes about a 5-minute break. That's about an hour, that first part. And then he takes about a 5-minute break. And that's about 45 minutes to an hour on the back half, talking about guided component tests, lab scope, all that sort of thing. So if you want to get to know your new tool, or you just want to know the tool that you already have a little bit better, definitely worth your time. And like I said, it's free. So why not? All right, let's go to questions. Looks like we got one on the Zoom. And Jay just says, thanks for the class. Well, thank you very much for chiming in. Appreciate it. And then on YouTube, George says, always very expensive on those BMWs. You must be talking about that radar module. Yeah, for sure. Buddy of mine, his son works for BMW, and he says BMW stands for bring money with you. So make sure you bring money with you when you go to the dealership for sure. So with that, easy class tonight. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of time out of your day, learn a little bit more about BMWs and how they relate to ADAS. Hopefully you join me next week for Back to Basics. With that, enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. Have a nice night and take care.